I think there's not too many people in this world that can say they've never felt like they had to go to work. And I haven't felt like I've had to work my entire career because I just like basketball so much. And I enjoy the interaction with the players. I enjoy the interaction on campus. I just like the atmosphere. So I've never really felt like I've had to work. And that's a blessing.
Coach Mike Helfer. By every definition put forth in sports, he has been successful. He has 517 career wins and counting. He's won 5 regular season Gulf South Conference titles, along with 1 GSC tournament championship. He's won 3 Southern States Athletic Conference titles before his tenure at Valdosta State. To quote Al Davis, he just wins, baby. How'd he do it? And why hasn't he been given an opportunity at a higher level? I took a deep dive into this topic to find out. The story, as always, starts further back in his playing days. But not exactly as a basketball player. Mike Helfer was a 3-sport athlete, playing football, basketball, and track. Surprisingly, basketball was not his best sport.
I was probably a better football player than I was a basketball player. Got recruited for football and basketball in college, and we only lost 3 games in 4 years in football in high school. Won a couple state championships, so I had some opportunities there, but I tended to just want to go into basketball and love basketball more than football.
Right after his playing career was over, Helfer took a job at his alma mater, Capital University, kicking off his coaching career in the year of 1989. But why did he choose basketball as the sport to go into coaching?
Yeah, so just my love for basketball, I think, made me choose that route, and I was very fortunate that I could have went either way. I was happy that I went to the basketball route. And then, as you get done with your playing days, there's just some kids that just love the game, the intricacies, the strategy. That was me. I was always trying to figure that stuff out as a player. And then I got the opportunity to be a coach right at my school when I graduated, and that got me into coaching.
He would stay for only 2 years, eventually getting the call up to the Division I level with Kent State.
Yeah, so the guy who recruited me to Capital and coached me my first year went to Kent State as an assistant my sophomore year of college, and so I played for a different guy. But then as I graduated, Kent State had an opening, and he reached out to me and said, hey, I think this would be a good opportunity for you. So I was able to go to it and take it.
The Division III to Division I jump was tough and brought along plenty of challenges. Listening to Coach Helfer describe it, those roadblocks were not necessarily in the expected places.
So this is kind of funny. It was a big jump from a staff size, from travel, recruiting, things like that. From a quality of play, it was a jump, but when I was a junior at Capital, we beat Kent State in their home opener on their court. So it was kind of a wild, transition, and I think it just shows to you that sometimes the quality of a lower level can still be pretty high.
After that, plus a brief pit stop at Grand Valley State, he was finally given an opportunity to run his own program.
I was at Grand Valley, and our coach took the Central Michigan job, and I had the chance to go or stay and interview, and I interviewed and didn't get the job, and he hired somebody else because the interview process took quite a while. I was actually out of a job and moved to Atlanta to go into State Farm. And picked up the paper one day and saw that Southern Poly's basketball job had opened up in late August. And I thought, Southern, it's got to be close to here. It was 7 miles from the house I had moved into with my friend in Atlanta. And when I went to interview at Southern Poly, I'll tell you, the AD was from West Michigan, right by Grand Valley where I had coached. So we had a connection. And the president of Southern Poly at that time, Dan Papp, had spent time in Cleveland, Ohio, and grew up one exit from where I lived when I was coaching at Kent. And so when that happened, I knew that this was going to kind of be fate, and I got the job.
While at Southern Polytechnic, Helfer was a force. He compiled 186 wins, a .691 winning percentage, and 3 conference regular season titles, plus 5 appearances in the NAIA National Tournament.
And so that was a tough job. It was an engineering school, we didn't have a lot of, maybe easier majors. They were all tough, but we had Atlanta. And so we knew that basically everybody wanted to come to Atlanta. You could have a kid that likes the NBA, has the Hawks, likes the NFL, you have the Falcons, Braves, you had everything, and it was a great recruiting tool to bring kids there. So we just got the right kids and they fit, and we went on a tremendous run there.
Finally, Valdosta State, the program he has run for 18 years and counting.
So obviously you follow, and at that time we didn't have social media as much as we do now, but you still followed all the schools that were basically in your region, and you kind of knew when jobs opened up. And I knew when, Jim left here and this job opened up that it was a good opportunity. And it turns out Dr. Papp, was connected down here, and I think kind of helped get me maybe in the door, and, just interviewed and was fortunate enough to get it.
Having taken over a few programs in his time, Helfer has become adept at evaluating an existing roster.
I think you have to kind of see what players can be successful where you are in your system.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about just saying, oh, he's a great player. It's about he could be a great player here. So you have to evaluate the kids that are in the program that you're taking over for. It's fair to them. And then obviously start bringing in the right kids. I mean, no program's going to be successful without having good players.
If you listen to coaches tell you, culture is a big thing in sports. Some coaches build it through team relations, while Coach Helfer prefers to build that up on the court.
I think for us, the thing that helps our culture, number one, is winning. That always helps the culture. But we've always tried to spread out the scoring, and just make sure everybody's important and you're able to utilize every player. I'm not one to say, hey, I want one guy to average 40 and then everybody else average 6. I'd rather have 6 guys averaging 15 points. And that, I think, is what kind of builds that culture. It's just everybody knows that they're going to contribute in some manner.
In order to get more of a feel for how these philosophies land, I spoke to 4 players from this past year's team: Jay Rucker, Caden Bozer, Cam Hamilton, and Jacoby Owens.
Coach Helfer, he's a player coach, so there's nothing, there's times where he'll just look at you and be like, thank you, there's times where he'll be like, what you did at that moment in the game really helped us.
He's a player's coach. He really cares about the players, and he really gives you a lot of freedom. And a lot of places you go and it's super structured and it's all, you can only do this and this and this, but he really trusts his players a lot and he gives everybody a lot of freedom.
He believes in his program. He believes in what he does. So, of course we're going to believe it and go out there and play at the best ability, play free and play unselfish. So we feed off each other.
Obviously, when guys are going through those certain things and you're having a hard time and you're struggling, you have to have somebody that's there to push you through things, because if not, everybody is going to fall apart. And with having him there and having him push people through things, it really helped a lot.
He's quick to encourage and tell you, what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, he's quick to tell you when you're doing something wrong as well. But the thing is, I feel like you can see a little bit that he actually cares. You have a lot of coaches. For instance, one of my old coaches, was all about, winning and making sure we did this. And he did a little to none of, encouraging his players and telling them when they did something good. And I feel like this is one of the big differences he has is he'll tell you, when you're doing good, but as well, he'll tell you when you're doing bad. And then he'll be like, I know you can do this, so fix it, and, let's get to what, you can do.
Yeah, if everybody goes through a rough patch at some point, and he'll give confidence, just keep shooting, you're a shooter, trust your work, saying things like that, and just really inspire, it really, as a shooter, everybody needs confidence, so, and he's really good at that. And then in terms of culture and keeping the team together, we were really well together team this year. We really blended well and everybody liked each other. It was a good culture, and that's credit to him because he just provides that culture around it all.
Now, in order to score those points that Coach Helfer was talking about, it tends to help to have good players, obviously.
I think, it's kind of changed over the years. I think the biggest challenge that you always have as a head coach is to recruit. Mm-hmm. You've got to constantly recruit and be locating players. And, I think that's gotten much more difficult as social media has expanded. And, you might be recruiting a kid, next thing you know, his highlights go out, and then there's 15 schools recruiting him. So it's become a lot more challenging to identify and then recruit and then secure a commitment.
Go take a peek at the VSU record books, and you'll see a very consistent trend with all of Coach Helfer's teams.
every coach has like a few things that kids have to be able to do to play for them. And for me, like you've got to bring some things to the table offensively. You know, I'm kind of an offensive guy. I like the well-rounded guys maybe that could play multiple positions. And those are the type of kids that we've been able to have a lot of success here. So as I start to identify, I'm like, okay, is he a one-dimensional player, or can he do 3 or 4 things, play 2 or 3 positions? I'm going to tend to migrate towards that player.
I will say we don't run too many plays. I mean, we all, as our team, as you watch, you know, we all have what we like to say a gang full of killers. So we have a whole bunch of people who can score at any given night, and there's nights where, you know, somebody will go for 20 and the other person will go for 4, and then the next day the person that went for 4 would go for 20 and the other person went for 4, so vice versa. And that's really has to do with a lot of, you know, coaches' offense. You know, it's about who's hot that night and like just sharing the ball and making sure that everyone gets a touch and everyone, feels comfortable in the offense. It's not about, okay, let's come down and run this play for this person and this play for that person. Yes, he'll do that when the person's hot, but it's not like, you know, every time this person's going to touch the ball. So.
Because, I mean, we had, I think, 6 guys average over 10 points a game, and that's kind of unheard of. So that's again, that's credit to him. We move, we run, we pass the ball, we swing the ball, we play really heavily motion offense, and that's just, I think that allows guys to thrive and do what they're best at.
Yeah. I mean, we got so many unselfish players. We had a lot of talent, so it was. When we kick it, we knew it was good, so it was fun. It was just us coming together, everybody from different places, and just trying to put it together as one. So.
Yeah. We had a lot of freedom this year. I wouldn't say we had a lot of set plays because we didn't. We basically had motion and cut off the ball, move without the ball, and that was basically our offense.
I don't know. All my coaches more of like I never played for somebody who's more of offensive minded. Most of my coaches been like defensive minded, so it was a little different. So I just brought what I've learned in the past, like defensively, and just used it with his offensive mind, and we just boom. So it was a little different. We worked more on offense. We was more offensive minded, but. I mean, it was fun, so.
Okay. And while Helfer recruits his share of high schoolers, he's made plenty of waves bringing in transfers. Even before the transfer portal age, where players were granted a one-time waiver to be able to play immediately, Coach Helfer looked to bring in plenty of experienced players to fill out his roster.
Yeah, I think we've always kind of looked at transfers, and I like kids that are kind of experienced, you know, call them microwave, they're ready, you know, right away, versus maybe getting a younger kid that, you know, takes some time to develop. You know, we've kind of went the route of the transfers, and now I feel a little bit lucky that everybody's kind of going the transfer route. There are some I feel bad for the high school kids because there's not getting a lot of recruitment. Everybody's kind of went to the transfer route, whether it be through the portal or junior college or whatever. You know, everybody's going to have transfers on their team. Yeah.
Just take a look at this past year's roster. Only 3 of the 14 players on the roster came to VSU right out of high school. Meanwhile, the stars of the team, from Owens and Hamilton to grad transfer Ryan Black and veteran big men Maurice Gordon and Mohamed Fofana, all transferred in from both community colleges and other universities, from all different kinds of levels, Division I or Division II. With all these changes, on top of the growing amount of influence players have on teams these days, Helfer acknowledges the changes that coaches have had to pursue within themselves.
Yeah, I think that all of the older coaches have to continually evolve, you know, towards today's kids. And I feel like, you know, maybe I didn't do that as fast as I maybe should have. In the last couple of years, I think I've been better at kind of adjusting. And I don't think that, you know, I approach it more as kind of a team, making decisions with players as a team decision instead of trying to be the authoritarian and say, this is the only way we'll do it. You know, I listen to what our guys think or how they think they should play or what we should do. And then, like, a good example is we were just in a timeout at Union, and I was going to run a late game play, and our guys kind of said, hey, why don't we look at this with Caden and Jacoby? And I said, all right, let's go that route. You know, and it takes a lot from a coach's standpoint to trust your players, but, you know, I trusted that they had the right idea. They're the ones on the floor. They kind of had a good feel for it. So we went with it, and it worked. And so I think when you start to do that, I just think you learn about people and your players a little bit better. And I don't know if I adjusted as fast as I probably should have. I feel better now that I'm adjusted to today's kids.
As with any team, the coach can't be the only leader. Leadership in the locker room among the players on the roster is paramount to success for a team.
I think we've had kids that have really led by example, that have been fantastic. And I'm afraid to put one or two of them out there, but it's just hard to ignore a Bo Justice, you know, because Bo was such high energy, so successful on the court, so successful, a fan favorite. You know, that's one that jumps to mind. But I could pull up probably 10 or 12 of them that have all stepped up into leadership roles. I will say right now on our team, I think Jacoby Owens has done a great job of stepping up, not only on the court, but just verbally and as a friend and as a teammate and as a leader in the locker room. He's one that I would bring up, you know, down the road if that question was asked again.
Absolutely. Part of this shift can be attributed to how old this roster actually is.
Well, I think COVID gave us a lot of the veterans. You know, you have that COVID year, so you get these kids where Cam Hamilton has played 6 years of college. He's going to walk out of here with an MBA. So you've got older guys. So that kind of goes to my philosophy of, like, I'm listening to what they say, you know, instead of, you know, hey, this is the only way we're going to do it. This is you know, you listen to what their input is, because, heck, Cam's had 6 years of college basketball. Jacoby 5, Mohammed 5, Maurice 5, you know, Ryan Black 5. They all have multiple years under from that, you know, COVID. So I think the veteran part of it is kind of a byproduct of COVID right now.
With all the success this program has experienced, it's borderline amazing that Helfer is still at this level of the ladder. 500 career wins, after all, is an incredible accomplishment. So has he ever had any other offers? And if not, why is that the case?
You know, I did. I've been involved in a couple. One of them was really close, the Kennesaw job.
Okay.
But it's hard to move in men's college basketball. I don't know why, but, you know, you look at Valdosta State football, and those guys can move up. But in basketball, and it's not just me, look at Ben McCollum. He's 180-12 in like the last 5 years or 6 years or whatever, and he has not moved to a Division I job. You know, you can go down the list to numerous guys. Jim Crutchfield at Nova Southeastern was at West Liberty. He's the all-time winningest basketball coach at any level, percentage-wise, and he hasn't moved up. So it's difficult in basketball. Now, Valdosta State was a big part of that. I'm at one of the best Division IIs in the country, so I don't want to try to make a jump to a bad Division I when I'm at a place where you're so able to win consistently and then raise my kids in Valdosta, Georgia. You know, there's a lot of value in that.
Seriously? Little to no interest with all his wins, with all his league titles? Any thoughts on why this is, Coach?
I think in basketball, and I don't know why this is, I think this would be a great study. I think Division I AD is really big on winning the press conference and making splash hires. And when you say, hey, we're hiring a Division II head coach, that's not a splash hire.
Yeah.
Even though I'll take the GSC top 6 or 7 coaches and let's just randomly select teams and play against, you know, Division I guys across the country. I'll take the coaching in our league against the Division I guys in a heartbeat. You know, it's not like the coaching is any different, or, you know, you got different parameters at Division I, but you're still coaching X and O's and the players. And so I would take our guys, but, you know, I do think that there's probably this, you know, win the press conference because I want to hire a Duke assistant coach. I want to hire a Kansas assistant coach in that job. And you know, there's just not many. So, you know, it's just one thing that, you know, you're going to always have to probably deal with.
Yeah.
Now let's hold on a second. We've been assuming that every coach wants to be at that Division I level. But what if they don't? What if Coach Helfer is perfectly happy just running this Valdosta State program?
one, I felt lucky to get into coaching, and then I was assistant at Kent State for 5 years, so I kind of saw that Division I atmosphere, and it's very cutthroat, like cutthroat as, you know, I can't even imagine in today's world with NIL and everything going on, how cutthroat it would be at Division I. So maybe you say your dreams were to coach at a high level, but in reality, as I look back, you know, I would have a hard time not identifying this as a dream.
So if this is, in its own way, a dream, how does Coach Helfer feel about it? What has been the standout part of this overall experience?
So it's funny because I wouldn't pick one moment. I would just say that I think if you ask anybody in the country, you know, hey, give me 10, 15 of the top D2 schools in the country, I think Valdosta State's going to be in that discussion on the basketball side of it. Obviously, football and some of our other sports, you know, but now we put it to the point where everybody says, hey, they're going to be good. You know, Valdosta State's always good. That's kind of the ultimate compliment to a program. And I think, you know, I said this when I got here, I think you can win in football and basketball. You know, Florida did it with Billy Donovan, obviously in the basketball, and Urban Meyer was there as a football. Ohio State's done it. You know, there's been a lot of schools that have won in both sports. And so, you know, I've embraced football, and I think they've embraced us, and I think it's cool that we've been able to win in both sports. So probably the thing I'll be most proud of is that our name in basketball is important.
Well said, Coach. While the program was on a slight upswing when Helfer took over, it was only a 3-year trend. Up to that point, the best record in program history was a 21-6 year in the 1996-97 season, which was subsequently followed by 3 losing seasons. Under Coach Helfer, 8 such seasons. The math is quite simple. This program is now a juggernaut. Why leave that behind to try and do it again? Why not focus on maintaining what you've already built? Why not keep the fire burning? Well, that's exactly what Coach Helfer plans to do.
I see